Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our February 16th board meeting. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Here.
Councilwoman McCarthy. Here. Councilwoman Noack.
Here.
Councilwoman Inzarello.
Here.
Councilman Lohman.
Yeah. Okay, we'll begin this afternoon's board meeting. We have two site plans. Mr. Trotter.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. I'm Liam Trotta with the Planning Department. We have two site plans for the board to consider this afternoon, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review. The first application is Paramount Beauty. This is a beauty product supply and distribution warehouse. The subject location is on the south side of Commerce Drive, west of Adams Avenue, in the Hauppauge Industrial Park. And the proposal is for the construction of a 14,697 square foot, one-story building addition for warehouse use to an existing industrial building and a parking lot expansion with associated site work. The applicant has agreed to 5 standard conditions of site plan approval. They receive variances for rear yard setback and parking calcs, and the Board of Zoning Appeals have approved those variances. And this is again, it's a rear addition to the building. Commerce Drive is located over here. The proposed elevation, it's going to be split face block to match the existing building. Pretty straightforward. Does the board have any questions on this?
Very good. Any questions by the board? No. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
The next application is Dish Wireless, 350 Kennedy Drive. Subject site's also in the industrial park on the south side of Kennedy Drive. And the proposal is for co-location of 3 new panel antennas located 67 feet above grade on an existing monopole and new associated ground equipment with existing equipment compound. So this is a monopole, and the applicant is going to be proposing 3 new panel antennas. This is the proposed location on the monopole. There are about, I think, 9 antennas existing on the pole, and this is the new proposal for Dish Wireless. Board have any
Any question by
questions
the
on this
board?
application?
Is that in support of the 5G expansion?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% positive.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you.
Site plans will be voted on after the agenda is completed. Beginning is Town Board, Deputy Clerk.
Okay, we had the Building Department report from January 2023, and there are 7 public hearings today. 1 is on a special exception petition, and the other 6 are on code changes. So the special exception petition is submitted by 295 Osser Avenue for a commercial public recreation building for an outdoor turf sports training area, and the applicant's representative is here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. For the record, my name is Chris Tartaglia. I'm from High Point Engineering, and I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant today. What the application before you today is for a commercial public recreation facility. The applicant's business name is LI Fieldhouse, and with me today, if any questions from operational perspective come up, are Dave McMillan. He is one of the principals of LI Fieldhouse. For the record, the Suffolk County tax map number is District 800, Section 182, Block 130, Lot 30.8. As indicated on the screen, the property is located on the south side of Osser Avenue, 750 feet west from Adams Avenue, and is located pretty much right in the heart of the Hauppauge Industrial Complex. The site is zoned light industrial, and again, the application before you today is seeking a special exception for a commercial public recreation use. What does Long Island Fieldhouse do? So what they are proposing is to provide a facility that provides very highly personalized and specialized training to youth athletes, primarily in the sports of baseball, softball, soccer, and lacrosse. This training will take place both inside the building and outside. Unlike other facilities, it's an important clarification, which fall into this same use of commercial public recreation, such as the sports arena in St. James, which I'm sure most of the board members are aware of, and I am critically aware of, having spent most of my life there with my son, is that this facility will provide only training. There are no competitive games, there are no leagues, there will be no parties, there will be no food served. This is purely for specialized training by expert coaches and trainers in those sports mentioned. As a result, these are important points, which I'll get into in a moment with regard to how we address parking at such a facility. But first, just some information about the property and the surrounding area. Again, as noted on the screen, we're located in the center of the industrial park, and as is typical for uses around in the entire industrial park, we're surrounded by manufacturing, office, and industrial uses. The nearest residential home, important to mention, is over a half a mile away. The site itself contains 53,197 square feet, just under 1.2 acres. The existing building is 14,849 square feet, and there is no expansion proposed to the building. As you can see on the screen to my right, the building is located along the westerly lot line and is surrounded by paved areas to the east, which is utilized for parking, and also to the rear. The proposed modifications consist of utilizing a 12,359 square foot portion of that existing 14,800 square foot building for indoor training with a turf field inside the building. A wide open room, broken up into different training areas. What is proposed on the property along the south side is a turf field. That turf field will be 12,880 square feet. And Liam, I'll do my best to, yes, I figured it out. This outdoor turf field is shown on the map, the lower part of the map there, so north is to the right. So the outdoor turf field is what's shown to the left side of the orange box, which is the building. As you can see on the upper part of that plan, the turf field is blown up to depict a layout of that turf field, which will be somewhat L-shaped. The north side or the right side of the field will be primarily used as a baseball diamond for training in baseball skills, pitching, throwing, etc. And then the back part of the field will be utilized for similar or other sports. You can see that there are parking stalls flanking the field in that notch on the bottom, and of course, as they exist along the easterly side of the property, which is the bottom of the screen. That turf field will be enclosed by 20-foot-high safety nets that will be retractable. They're on a pulley system, and they can be raised and lowered when not in use or not needed. The field will also be illuminated by lights attached to poles. Those lights will not exceed 18 feet in height and will be directed downward in accordance with the town code. The facility will, of course, turn off all lighting at the property when the facility closes, which is anticipated to be 8:00 p.m. at the latest. As I mentioned previously, there are 39 parking stalls proposed at the property, including 2 ADA accessible parking stalls located near the entrance. As it relates to parking, because of the unique nature of the commercial public recreation use, there are no parking requirements defined in the town code. So as a standard operating procedure, our office prepared a parking demand analysis which took into account the operations of the facility, the number of employees, and related information to come up with an anticipated parking demand. And that analysis was submitted to planning for their review as part of this application. The following is just a brief recap of the findings of our analysis and a little bit of more description of how the business will operate. So the days and hours of operation of the facility are largely dictated by students' availability. Again, these are going to be kids, students who are in school during the day. So weekdays, we anticipate the hours of operation to be only between 4 and 8 p.m. Those hours may skew a little bit earlier when school is out in the summertime, but generally speaking, 4 to 8 during the week are the only operational hours that we're anticipating. Weekends, of course, will be busier, noting that those hours would be between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. So in our analysis, how did we come up with the parking demands? So in talking with LI Fieldhouse operational reps, they indicated that it's a relatively low impact use from a business operational perspective. The business is run primarily on the trainers. So they only have an office staff of 2 people, really full-time, that will be at the facility while it's open. Trainers and coaches, they're anticipating having a total of 8. That doesn't sound like a lot, but again, this particular use is going to be geared towards a very specialized training for kids in a bit of a higher tier level than might be seen at other facilities. So with that, they're anticipating a maximum amount of students on premises at any given time, or the maximum amount at the peak time of 38 students. And again, that's limited, and assuming that there are 8 coaches at the facility. And generally speaking, coaches can be having one-on-one training, and that can vary up to maybe 1 with 8 or 10 children. But obviously, given the setup of the facility and the way these uses work, the lack of available field space dictates that it's going to be fairly minimally used. And again, with no games, no competitions, it's a relatively light use. So in calculating the parking demands, this is the methodology that we used. We figured 100% of the 2 office staff would be there during operational hours. That's 2 stalls. 100% of the 8 trainers would be present at the peak period. So that's another 8 stalls that are required. And then we looked at the fact that parents will be dropping their children off for lessons. They are not going to be staying there. Again, as I mentioned, there's no bleachers, there's no seats, there's no snack bar. It might have Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure. There certainly will not be the type of facility like we see at these typical sports facilities where there are games and parents cheering and rooting on their team. So what we considered was a absolute worst-case maximum of 75% of the students' parents, and again, that would be 75% of 38 students, all being at the facility at once, either dropping their child off or picking them up. While that is generally an unrealistic number, we're thinking it's going to be significantly less, again, simply because the training sessions will be skewed throughout the day, again, based on the limitation of the number of trainers, based on the limitation of field space, but assuming a very, very worst-case scenario that all 75% of those 38 parents were on site to drop their child off or pick them up, that would result in 29 vehicles needing to be accommodated on the property. So just doing some quick math, we had 2 office staff, 8 trainers, and 29 vehicles. That's 39 total parking stalls that we believe would be required in an absolute worst-case scenario, and we're providing 39 parking stalls on the property. So with that, the only other thing that I believe I mentioned, but I just want to reiterate it, is that, again, the peak operation of this facility will be on the weekends when the children are out of school. But most importantly, that's when the Hauppauge Industrial Park is really at its quietest. Most of the businesses are closed on the weekends, and the warehouses, and even if they are some in operation, they're certainly not at full staff. So that's a brief recap of the presentation that I have, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, any questions by the board?
I'm just curious, are they training individual kids that come, or are they gonna take a team like from Stony Brook or something like that?
I believe it's going to be more individualized. There might be team training offered, but because it's specialized, they might do a pitching session where maybe 4 or 5 pitchers from the team may show, or perhaps a batting session. So it's not anticipated that they'll have entire teams there. They might, on occasion, have that, but generally speaking, it's going to be more highly specialized for kids that are hopefully on a rocket ship to fame and stardom.
Thanks for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard on this public hearing? Being none, I'll move to close the hearing.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noah?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Tartaglia.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
You too.
Okay, the next 6 are the hearings for changes on town code, and Janice Hanson, Assistant Town Attorney, is here to do the presentations.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. My name is Janice Hanson, Assistant Town Attorney, and the first public hearing today is to consider an amendment to Chapter 221, Article 3. A recent change in New York State legislation has necessitated an update to our town code to bring our existing legislation in line with New York State's updated legislation. Proposed changes to Article 3, registration of vacant and abandoned foreclosing or foreclosed property, would include the removal of all references to vacant and abandoned property, removal of evidence of vacancy, semi-annual registration, and vacant and abandoned residential real property from Section 221-7 legislative intent and definitions. Removal of paragraphs A through E from Section 221-10 inspection and registration of real property, and the relettering of the remaining 3 paragraphs A through C. And lastly, change the registration fee from a semi-annual fee of $500 to an annual fee of $75. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions by the board?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard in this public hearing? Being none, I'll move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes, and motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Okay, the next public hearing is on proposed local law 3-2023, which is to Chapter 233 Shellfish. This proposed amendment is simply to change the title Constable to Harbor Master in Section C3, as civil service has done away with the Constable title in favor of the Harbor Master title. So unless there are any questions, that concludes that public
Questions
hearing.
by the board?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard in this public hearing? There being none, I move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Okay, the next hearing is on proposed local law 4-2023, Chapter 9, appearance tickets. This amendment is to remove subsection E from Section 9-2, authorized public servants, which is a matter of housekeeping, really. Subsection E unnecessarily authorizes the highway superintendent and deputy superintendent to issue summonses under Chapter 108, which is boat basin and mooring areas, which doesn't really come into play. So unless there are any questions, that concludes that hearing.
Questions by the board?
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Okay, the next public hearing is on proposed local law 5-2023 for Chapter 177 solid waste. This is a proposed amendment to Section 177-36 annual permit to reflect that the annual permit fee is $10. Unless there are any questions, that concludes that hearing.
Questions by the board?
Yep.
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing on proposed local law 6-2023, Chapter 256, taxation. The proposed amendments to this chapter are in Article 1, partial exemption for senior citizens with limited income. The amendments remove outdated information and increase the amount of the maximum income of persons entitled to an exemption to $50,000 as of July 1st, 2022. Unless there are any questions, that concludes that hearing.
Questions by the board?
No,
No.
thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
And proposed local law 7-2023, Chapter 164, fire prevention. The amendments proposed for Chapter 164 would add a subsection C to Section 164-30, required protection. The new subsection adds emergency responder radio coverage systems to the required protections for new buildings, as well as the exceptions to those requirements. The amendment would also add emergency responder radio coverage system to section 164-32 permits required, section 164-33 approval of systems and equipment, and section 164-34 maintenance of equipment.
Questions by the board?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this public hearing? There being none, move to close.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes, thank you, council.
Okay, the town board to authorize the town clerk to advertise for a public hearing at Town Hall on the 7th day of March, 2023, at 2 p.m. to consider proposed local law 8-2023, modifying Chapter 221 entitled Property Maintenance as it relates to standards. Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes,
On consent agenda, the controller number 1 to 11, and consent resolutions 1 and 2 in the minutes of January 31st, 2023.
is there anyone on the board that wishes to remove any resolutions from the consent agenda?
That helps.
The clerk.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes,
The town board to issue a secret negative determination in the matter of the application for site plan approval by 125 Commerce Drive, which is located on the west side of Adams Avenue in Hauppauge, and the application for site plan approval by Dish Wireless LLC at 350 Kennedy Drive in Hauppauge, both for reasons as stated in a memorandum from the Assistant from the Environmental Protection Director. Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
yes,
Authorize the town clerk to advertise for bid 2311 athletic field clay, 2312 polyethylene bags. Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
yes,
Authorize the town clerk to advertise for request for proposal for RFP 2313 for concession sales at Flynn Park. Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
yes,
Award the following bids and authorize the purchase of associated goods or services. Bid 23-5 for annual requirements contract for traffic signal controllers to GAC Incorporated, and 22-115 for construction of a concrete deck and canopy at Paul J. Fitzpatrick Country Club, contracts 1 and 2 to P. de Blasio Builders, and to further authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement on a form approved by the town attorney. Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim?
yes,
Okay, on the resolutions, the first 6 resolutions are for extension of bids. The first is 21-9 for electrical maintenance and repair with Greg Smith Electrical. 22-10 outboard motors and related items with American Marine. 22-18 to print and distribute the annual recreation guide with Tobey Printing. 22-1 for processing of curbside recyclable material with Great Northern Fibers with revised revenue payment terms. 22-34 for bearings, sprockets, chains, etc. with Eastern Industrial Automation and Local Equipment. 22-23 for automotive rebuilding services with drivetrain, truck parts, and Jasper engines and transmissions. Adoption of the Highway Department Road Program for 2023, subject to the conditions as stated in a memo from the Assistant Environmental Protection Director. Extension of an agreement with Mr. Softy for mobile concessions at town parks for the 2023 season. Authorize the Department of Environment and Waterways to prepare and file an application with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for grant funding from the Household Hazardous Waste State Assistance Program, and further authorize the supervisor to sign a contract in a form approved by the town attorney. Authorize the town clerk to submit a grant application to the New York State Archives Local Government Management Improvement Fund for the purpose of continuing the preservation and access to the building department records, as well as the records from the Wisconsin Fire Districts as part of a shared service records management initiative. Ratification of execution by the town supervisor of an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Smithtown Administrators Guild for the title of Deputy Tax Receiver. Adoption of amendments to Chapter 112 of the Town Code entitled Building Construction as it relates to fees. And the last is to set the time of the town board meeting to be held on March 21st, 2023 to 2 p.m. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Authorize the acceptance of a donation of $450 from Robert Mark for a bench and memorial plaque in memory of John Fisher. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Authorize the supervisor to execute the following resolutions on a form approved by the town attorney. Master Software Service Agreement with Spatulas for property assessment software effective January 18th, 2023. A professional service agreement with Vroom Networks for emergency on-call technical support regarding the town's data communications network. Specialized service agreement with 0 Point Energy Training Center and the Recreation Department for yoga and Tai Chi classes through December 31st, 2023. And to authorize the Department of Environment and Waterways to prepare and sign, and the supervisor to sign and submit a letter of intent and application to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation to obtain partial grant funding for costs associated with the repair of 3 existing vessel pump-out facilities. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
Approve settlement per the recommendation of the town attorney with Orlaccio for $818.31. State Farm Casualty as subrogate of Dorothy Kupka for $7,428.41. Cruz for $975 and Neil Berg for $1,434.25. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes.
And personnel items number 1 to 7 as described on the agenda. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes. We'll reconvene as Board of Site Plan Review and vote on today's 2 site plans.
The site plans, it's the minute of approval from the town board meeting of January 31st, and conditionally approve the site plan for Paramount Beauty on Adams Avenue in Hauppauge, and conditionally approve the site plan for Dish Wireless at Marcus Boulevard in Hauppauge, both described at the beginning of the meeting by our planning department. Councilman Lohman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella.
Yes. Councilwoman
Councilwoman Noack.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Supervisor Wareheim.
Yes. That concludes the agenda. We will move to the public portion. We have speakers today.
Okay, Bart
Hold on,
Napolitano.
before I start, we do have speakers, correct?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that's okay. Before we start, public participation is subject to the rules of decorum, which you have on your speaker cards as per Town Code Section 76.7. The public portion is for town-related matters only. Any unsubstantiated, unverified, or material false information will be interrupted. The 3-minute rule will be strictly enforced. When you hear the tone, you know you have 1 minute to complete your statement. Please give your name and address to the clerk and address the board.
Bart Napolitano.
Good afternoon. I'm a resident at 114 Twin Oaks Drive in Kings Park. I'm there 45 years, and I'm retired from the 101st Armored Cavalry Tank Division.
Thank you for your service.
What we have here is something that we went past 10 or 15 years ago when the Long Island Railroad wanted to take that property, and nothing has changed. We got the same situation. those diesel engines run 24/7s like the tanks do. The noise travels maybe 5 miles in the evening and it's quiet. So here we have the situation all over again. You're gonna let this guy go over there and build this transfer station. What guarantees do we have that he's not gonna bring stuff from Connecticut or any other state and bringing it to Long Island? There should be protection for us out here. We're gonna put up with this noise and the discomfort of that smell and everything else that's attributed to it. And nobody is interested. We should have certain hours between maybe 6 or 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and they shouldn't be allowed to have deliveries or use any of that equipment there to pulverize the garbage, whatever they're gonna do. And my property values, I expect to retire with that money. And I'm sure this is gonna affect everybody in Kings Park. My slogan was Kings Park, best kept secret, going back, that was me. I did that for Mathis Auto Parts. And I wanna beg you to look into this as best you can, protect the people that live there. Make sure they're not bringing garbage from another state or anything west of Nassau County into our area, because he's looking to make money, and if his garbage isn't what it's supposed to be, he's gonna import it from someone else. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can tell you that, so you know, sir, right now, that whole application is before the Safety Transportation Board, which is a federal agency. You have our word up here. We are keeping an eye on it. They will be allowed to make comments to the federal government, and we'll wait to see what happens there before the town decides to get involved.
We have a situation there that you guys did nothing about. I remember I was there 45 years. There was a guy on Robin Lane that made it into a 3-story building. And the mess there, the people that have their houses on both sides of this monstrosity, and because it came under the federal thing, because they put the thing on the roof.
Your time is up. I just wanted to inform you
okay.
that the application is moving through the federal government, but we have our eye on it. Thank you.
India DeCarmen?
India DeCarmine, 170 Route 111. I wanted to thank the board. You recently increased the maintenance budget for Sweetbriar Farm. I call it Sweetbriar Nature Center. I'm a volunteer there. So I wanted to thank you for that. I know that the director of Sweetbriar has recently sent a priority list of maintenance items for that property, and she had asked me to ask when you anticipated possibly starting that list.
If
Your
I
comments
may interject,
completed?
I'm
Are
sorry?
your comments completed?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lohman?
We're having a meeting there tomorrow to go over that priority list. Unfortunately, the scope of the work that Marie is looking for at this point in time is well over $100 million, $1 million. We don't have that. So we're going to prioritize her list, and we were going to go systematically to address those that are in the most critical needs and work through the whole list until we accomplish it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And she will be there tomorrow, too.
I'm sure, and maybe I didn't even know there was a meeting, so when I spoke with her, it probably hadn't even been arranged yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all we have.
No other speakers? Okay, in that case, I will move to close the meeting.
Second.
Supervisor Wareheim?
Yes?
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilwoman Inzarella?
Yes.
Councilman Lohman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all for attending. Have a good afternoon.